Hey gamers, Maniac here with GameAccess.net. I was very interested in performing this presentation for people who might be working from home or might be interested in other ways of basically doing their work without having to have cumbersome desks. So I wanted to have this presentation for you guys just so we have some understanding of perhaps there could be a better way of doing it. And I invite your comments about the presentation, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. I also am allowing anybody who watches this video to present this to whoever in charge at their offices might be in control of this sort of thing, because I really would like to see this or see if this would spread out or spread around. This presentation is on virtual reality headsets and how they can make our jobs a lot easier. This video is going to be broken up into two parts. Part one is going to be talking about the history of virtual reality and what is virtual reality. And of course, you can't talk about virtual reality without talking about Keanu Reeves and Johnny Mnemonic, so we're going to use that. But for most of you guys in present day, virtual reality is going to look like this. Virtual reality is a way to display images fully over a person's view. It allows users to see the images in 3D from a 360-degree field of view. When paired with headphones, it can offer virtual 3D soundscapes, responds to voice, touch, and gesture commands if programmed to. That's just a quick overview of what virtual reality is. We're going to talk more about what you can do with virtual reality just a little bit later in the presentation. Next, I'd like to get into the history of VR. This is probably what most people think of when they think of VR, even to this day. This wonderful image of Fisher Stevens from the film Hackers. Early virtual reality headsets required cumbersome pods to assist with body tracking. It would only work for custom high-end PCs at the time. Due to their high cost, which I would estimate between $20,000 and $25,000 easy, not too many people actually personally own these machines. They were mostly rented out at arcades and other type of carnivals and festivals. Although it certainly did have its own major supporters in the market. The VR headsets of this time could do 3D video. However, the quality of the video itself was 640 by 480, which most people would tell you is probably just around DVD quality. And performance itself was only 20 frames per second, which is not even broadcast quality standards. The last problem was very few games were developed for this hardware, particularly because of all the problems I just listed. Next, I'd like to talk about VR culture. Particularly, I'd like to discuss what VR is like today, in today's day and age. This object that I'm holding right now in my hands is what I would consider to be a perfect example of a modern VR headset. I want you to take a really good look at it, particularly for a couple of reasons. One, you'll notice that there's no cage or sensor that's actually included into it. There are sensors actually built into the unit itself that actually do all of the head tracking internally. You also notice that this is a lot smaller and lighter than the headset that you saw over Fisher Stevens' face. It also doesn't really require cumbersome cables. It has its own internal batteries that can be charged just no differently than your smartphone or your tablet can, and can operate independently based upon that. We'll go more into that later. So let's go into more specifics about what VR is like today. Modern VR headsets operate independently, similar to how your smartphone or your tablet works, and can have their own internal set of software as well as games that can download straight to the headset. However, it can also be connected to a PC or a Mac for extra functionality. This right here that I have in my hands is an example of what would be considered to be a PC or Mac video cable for the VR headset. It uses the Thunderbolt standard that is pretty much just standard in most Macs, although I do know that there are plenty of video cards in PC that also support Thunderbolt. But basically, if you need extra functionality with your PC or Mac, you would basically get a cable like this. They're about $70. VR headsets do still support 3D playback, and the video quality is absolutely fantastic. Most high-end VR headsets, thanks to that Thunderbolt protocol, can support as high as 1080p per eye, with an average refresh rate of about 90 Hz. This is beyond actually what most people's smart TVs can actually output. I previously explained that most VR headsets have their own internal sensors these days and do not require external cages. Some headsets may require an external sensor or camera to be put in, but no cage is required anymore. I don't want to go over that again. Also, there's no video chat involved with VR because why would there be? All interaction in VR is actually done in virtual 3D spaces. Here's a little example of what that may actually look like. You'll notice that all of the patrons in this particular picture are actually real human beings communicating over VR headsets. These are just a couple of examples provided by Meta of just what can be done with their virtual environments. As you can see right here, these are presentation spaces that have lots of functionality. You can interact with different screens, you can interact with virtual whiteboards. A lot can actually be done in these spaces. Finally, I wanted to stress that users keep their own VR headsets and take their VR headsets where they go. And yes, I do want to stress this. Part of modern day VR culture is everyone's VR headset is their VR headset. Obviously, headsets can be issued out for employees and things like that. But essentially, if you are a VR enthusiast, you have a headset and you take that VR headset, you wouldn't pass that around or share it with other people. Travel cases for these things do exist. You can get professional travel cases, no different than you can get professional camera equipment and things like that. This right here is an in-case model specifically for my MetaQuest Pro. The MetaQuest Pro fits in this. And it's a relatively hard case, but if I want to take my VR headset out, I'm going to be putting it in this. Let's move on now to part 2. Why go VR? There's really two reasons why I'm bringing up this whole presentation, and they basically revolve around saving space and saving money. A modern day office space is going to take up what? 2 to 3 computer monitors at least. Speakers, a headset, a microphone, a webcam. That's a lot of desk retail space. This is an example of my wife's current desk setup. She's using an iMac, which doesn't even have a PC tower, but as you can see, the 2 monitors that she has takes up the entire space of her desk. I'd like to think that VR could improve upon this. So we're going to move on to the next reason, why go VR? And the essential answer is just costs and convenience. A single VR headset can replicate the functions of at least 3 high-definition monitors, microphone, and a headset. This not only frees up desk space, it reduces costs, especially if you're on a budget. This example here, provided in this virtual image by Meta, replicates what it is like to a person who's currently in virtual reality to see multiple monitors on their desks. Those monitors do not exist in real life, nor are they visible to anyone that can actually see that woman's desk space. But she can see them just fine through her VR headset. We already discussed just what is possible at virtual collaborative spaces, so I really don't want to get into any of that again. But I do want to fast forward to our final main point of this entire video. If there was any major point that I'm trying to make with this video, it's that I think VR would be the perfect option for those of you who wish to work from home. Paired with a laptop, putting on a headset would actually save you guys a lot more space and be more cost efficient than simply having bulky monitors or equipment that has to be constantly upgraded and replaced. Finally, I'd like to get to my last point about why to go VR. We've all had that one user that's had like 5 different monitors plugged into his computer, and 2 of them are completely non-standard. When you're RDPing into them, it's impossible to see anything that they're doing or working on because of just how non-standard their equipment is. Well, guess what? In certain configurations with certain types of hardware, you can actually see their screens with this thing. This can replicate or at least make it visible to you much easier than your screens can. Last, I want to talk about all-in-one screens. Can't all of this be replicated with traditional equipment? No, it can't. Sorry. This is a 5K all-in-one monitor, and I absolutely love it. It's $1,500. It has everything I need, but it's huge. This right here is a VR headset. It's $1,000 right now. Thank you all for enjoying this presentation. I hope you guys got something out of it or thought it was interesting. Please post a comment below with what you felt your thoughts were on it. Yeah, and also feel free to send this to whichever bosses you have online, email, links, whatever. It's totally fine. I don't mind it one bit. Till next time, guys, my name is Maniac with GameAccess.net. Take care. Over and out. Oh, and by the way, if you do move this around, I'd like you to use this hashtag.